Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into something our source material says is an incredibly disturbing pattern, one the mainstream media has supposedly ignored for a very long time. It's about how the military and government allegedly gained control of social media. The mechanism, something called patent theft. So, our mission today is really to pull out the important nuggets of knowledge from the sources we're looking at: Aim for Truth, State of the Nation, and the Millennium Report. Now, I should say up front, some of these claims might sound, well, completely and utterly insane, maybe because of prior distortion, as the source suggests, but they insist they can back up every bit of it. It all seems to come down to this one question the source poses: how did they allegedly lock you in a digital prison and essentially just throw away the key?
Right. And the central idea here, according to these sources, is that global elites apparently knew the information age was coming, and they saw it, allegedly, as something that would jeopardize their power.
So they needed to control it.
That's the assertion. They decided they needed to, quote, imprison our minds. Figuring out how to control information became key. You know the saying the source uses: he who controls the information controls.
Mm.
And it's not just about controlling what you do see, it's maybe more about what you don't. By limiting access, shaping the narrative, they could, the source claims, redirect our thinking, kind of lead us like sheep, limit that expanding consciousness.
And all done secretly.
Right under our noses, allegedly, using our own tax money, the source points out.
Okay, let's try to unpack this then, because the source makes a really bold claim right away that the big names, Google, Facebook, Twitter, Cisco, most search engines, all the social networks, they didn't actually start the way we've heard.
Yeah, the common story, the garage inventor, the dorm room coder. The source says that's not the real origin.
But instead,
Instead, they claim these platforms run on open source code that was actually given to them.
given to them by who?
By the military-industrial complex, allegedly.
Wow. Okay, so where did they supposedly come from then?
Well, the source points directly to places like DARPA. That's the Defense Department's Advanced Research Agency, and In-Q-Tel.
The CIA's venture capital firm.
Exactly. Those are named as the alleged origin points. The material even claims Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
He didn't even code the original Facebook.
He didn't.
It was given to him. That's the claim. The source says this even came out in, lawsuits when his friends sued him.
And Google too.
The source alleges the CIA made Google. And then, get this, Google apparently turned around and made the NSA.
That's quite a chain of events they're describing. So the foundations of our digital world built by intelligence agencies.
That's the core of the allegation. But, the really interesting part, according to the source, is how this supposedly happened, this alleged patent theft.
Right, the how. This involves a specific company.
Yeah, Leader Technologies. Out of Columbus, Ohio, CEO Michael McKibben. The source claims they actually came up with the code that eventually became Facebook and Google.
So how did it get from Leader Technologies to, well, Facebook and Google?
Okay, so the source details this alleged process. They say IBM's Eclipse Foundation. Yeah, the open source community.
Yeah.
They allegedly stole the original ideas and the source code from Leader, and they supposedly had help.
Help from who?
From a patent attorney named James Chandler. Now, this is key. Chandler apparently represented Leader Technologies and McKibben.
Their own lawyer.
Yes. And the source claims Chandler convinced McKibben to hold off on getting the patent for, quote, suspicious reasons.
Which were?
Well, the source argues the ultimate goal was to steal the code. Chandler then allegedly disseminated it, passed it on to the people who ended up with it.
Like Brin, Page, Zuckerberg.
Exactly. Supposedly via this IBM Eclipse Foundation channel.
Okay, hold on. So the source is saying the patent system itself was kind of twisted, used against the inventor?
That seems to be the implication. That it's not always about protection, but sometimes allegedly a lure, a way to get innovators, the best and the brightest, to reveal their ideas.
So the military-industrial complex can just take them.
That's the picture the source paints. They also mention that Chandler was supposedly a mentor to some big names in politics. Obama, Holder, Mueller, Comey, Podesta.
And there was something else about Eclipse. Backdoors.
Right. The source also alleges that Eclipse created backdoors in the code. Backdoors that later became useful for what we now know as the NSA.
So let's connect the dots here. If these origins are true, as the source claims, what does that mean for us, for you using the internet every day? The source says the internet is being used as a weapon of mass social manipulation. How?
Well, the practical side of it, according to the source, is constant tracking. They claim a profile is being created on you. Every search, every Facebook like, every phrase you type, it's all logged.
Is there proof of this?
The source points to a program called Marina, apparently run by the NSA. This supposedly came out during that huge WikiLeaks dump of CIA documents. It allegedly tracks all this metadata.
And our devices.
The phone is singled out as the single worst device for tracking you on this Internet of Things.
Okay. And then there are these really specific, almost sci-fi claims about Google's parent company, Alphabet.
Yeah, those are pretty out there. The source states Alphabet owns all 26 subseries of Google, that it has the only AI on the planet, and is closest to quantum computing.
The only AI on the planet. What does that even mean? And quantum computing, the level of power that suggests is immense.
It implies, well, almost unimaginable control and capability, if true. The source doesn't really elaborate beyond making those statements.
And what about the human-hunting Terminator-like robots claim? That sounds terrifying.
Right, the source just throws that in there, that Google has these robots. It's presented as another piece of evidence of their advanced and potentially dangerous technology portfolio, I suppose. No real
Yeah.
details given beyond the assertion itself.
And this all ties back to control.
Yes, and censorship. The source says censorship is reaching feverish levels. They specifically call out YouTube and Facebook for, quote, clamping down on conservative messages.
And education.
Yeah.
How does that fit in?
The source posits that the decline in the education system isn't accidental. It's allegedly deliberate to make people more ignorant. Because, the more that you can specifically narrow the message and control the message, the more ignorant people become.
It's a bleak picture, and the source brings up warnings from past presidents, like Eisenhower.
Yeah, it's quite striking how the source uses these historical warnings. Eisenhower's farewell address, right? He famously warned about the military-industrial complex.
That specific phrase.
Yes. He described it as this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry. And the source highlights his worry about its total influence. Economic, political, even spiritual.
Affecting every level of government.
Exactly. Felt everywhere. Eisenhower urged, we must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or our democratic processes. He said only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry could keep it in check.
Which ties right back to the control of information idea.
Precisely.
And then there's President Kennedy. What does the source quote from him?
They quote JFK talking about being opposed by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy, one that relies on covert means to expand its influence.
Which the source interprets
as the New World Order, the global elites. Kennedy apparently said this conspiracy uses infiltration instead of innovation, subversion instead of elections, intimidation instead of free choice.
Powerful words.
And he mentioned it conscripting vast human and material resources. The source adds that statistic here, that the 64 wealthiest people own more than the rest of the planet combined.
So what's the ultimate goal, according to the source, the end game?
Complete control. Not just controlling speech, but actually controlling your thoughts by limiting the information you receive, leading eventually to complete control over people via the internet.
So, faced with this rather daunting picture, does the source offer any solutions? Any way to fight back? They mentioned free speech.
Right. It's not all doom and gloom in the source material. They do propose actions. One specific idea was aimed at YouTubers, called Time to Go Rogue.
Go rogue.
The concept was for, say, 8 channels, maybe with a combined 2.5 million subscribers, to pool their resources. They'd all share one channel, funneling their viewers there.
And the point of that would be?
Volume, mainly. Uploading maybe 50 to 70 videos a day to this one channel. The idea was they could potentially dominate YouTube again, viewership-wise and financially, bypassing some of the alleged censorship and restoring honest news.
Interesting strategy.
Yeah, and the broader message from the source seems to be a call to action that right now is humanity's chance, is Americans' chance to fight to restore our freedoms and our privacy, or we're going to lose them forever.
Okay, so that covers the sort of macro-level conspiracy and control narrative. But the source material also takes a sharp turn, doesn't it? Or something much more personal and immediate.
It does, yeah. It pivots significantly towards personal preparedness, especially for crisis situations. And it focuses on an aspect that maybe doesn't get as much attention as, say, food or water.
Which is?
Medical care. Or rather, the lack of it in a crisis.
How do they illustrate that?
Through a really harrowing story, the source shares about a man named Rob. His father died during Hurricane Katrina. Not from the storm directly, but from a small ankle infection.
Just an infection.
Yeah, because the hospital was, in Rob's words, like a horror movie. Understaffed, overwhelmed. He even said some staff seem to be trying to speed up the death process. Just chaos.
That's awful.
And it leads to the source's main point here. The #1 killer in any crisis is disease and infection. Why? Because hospitals might be inaccessible or shut down, pharmacies looted. You might be completely on your own medically.
So what's the proposed solution?
This leads into a product called Survival MD. It's presented as an ebook, basically a survival guide for a family focused purely on medical self-reliance.
For the average person.
Exactly. Designed for the layman. The source says even a 12-year-old can understand it. The idea is to empower you to treat yourself and your family when there's no doctor available.
And it's based on insights from a specific doctor.
Yes, a Dr. Radu from Romania. His claim, according to the source, is that something like 80% of the world's medical conditions are actually triggered by just a handful of causes. So if you know how to address those core issues,
You can handle a lot yourself.
that's the idea. The ebook apparently covers things like what drugs you should stockpile. Not just any drugs, but specific ones that cover a wide range of issues and are easy to administer. It also supposedly reveals which common medicines might actually hinder healing.
What else is in it?
Things like how to assemble a real first aid kit, not just the basic ones. It outlines the 5 most likely causes of death in a crisis scenario. And crucially, the worst medical mistakes people make when trying to self-treat.
Can you give some examples?
Sure. The source mentions things like 2 specific procedures to stop bleeding if you're stabbed, how to prevent simple cuts from getting infected, which can be deadly in a crisis, and apparently why you should never, ever, ever use plastic bags to cover up wounds.
Good practical stuff.
It seems like it. The underlying message the source pushes is simple preparedness. They end that section by saying nobody ever died from being too prepared.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. From alleged government control of social media via patent theft, to historical warnings, and then down to very personal medical preparedness. What stands out to you from this deep dive into all these claims from the source material, this intersection of information control and personal resilience? It really does circle back to that idea the source keeps emphasizing. The less you know, the more easily you're herded like cattle. So, thinking about all this, in a world where, as the source alleges, information can be a weapon and maybe traditional support systems could fail, how do you personally ensure you remain, as Eisenhower put it, alert and knowledgeable? How do you stay empowered, both, mentally and physically? Something to think about.